Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Love Alchemy, the place for divine love transformation. And I'm your host, Tamara Hansen, and I'm so happy that you could come in and sit down and just take a moment to relax and find some peace, find some self-reflection, and perhaps learn something new. So today, once again, I want to welcome my good friend and returning guest, Brenda Sharp. Brenda, thank you so much for coming back. If you'd like, please introduce yourself again to everyone here.
Okay, hi. Thanks so much for having me again, Tamara. I guess to let you know what I do, actually, I'm a certified clinical hypnotherapist, a master hypnotist. I do Reiki. I do all the clairvoyant and clairaudient and clairsentience and all of that. I'm a medium and a channeler as well. I've been gifted really with all of these goodies. I don't know if it's a gift or a curse. But anyway, I've got it apparently. And so it was kind of a shock to me. I became psychic at the age of 4 when I told 2 little girls that their mom and dad were going to pass in an airplane crash, and they actually did. So at that point, the day that I had told them, they got angry with me and pushed me down a hole in the street, and I just sealed up my mouth and never told a soul, anybody. And I lived with it. And when you live with something for over 50 some freaking years, you tend to wonder, was this real or am I just imagining things? And when I spoke with my mom, she said, "Oh, Brenda," she said, "you couldn't have, because nobody knew until the next day when the children were already gone." I kind of went, "Oh, thank goodness." But when I started taking my training as far as hypnosis and hypnotherapy, I have to say that it was a dam that opened up and just started flooding out. And when I had done a session, it all came out that, yes, I had told those 2 little girls that their mom and dad were going to die. And I said to my mom, I said, "Well, you weren't with me all the time. How did you know that?" And that's when she, of course, said that the children were taken from the home immediately, and nobody knew until the next day when it came out in the papers. But what she didn't realize, and what I really didn't realize at that time, was that I had told them before the airplane went down. I didn't have the knowledge that was in the paper or anything afterwards. It was all done before the actual incident happened. So that's what happened to my psychic abilities. They just froze off, and that was that. And even though I kept on having strange things happening to me and knowing when people were going to pass or our dogs, or I kind of had a premonition of what was about to happen. My youngest daughter kept on saying, "Oh, Mom, I hate it when you tell me something," because she says it always comes true. And she says, "You're always right." And so anyway, yeah, that's how I started on this, and I was always interested in the paranormal and whatnot, and that's how I got into the profession. I had done real estate in Calgary. I had worked in numerous hospitals in different modalities, ICU and pediatric oncology, intensive care, which was the ICU. I also worked in the Forensic Remand Center, which was the psychiatric assessment of prisoners. I also worked in psychiatric daycare, in surgery, gynecology, numerous things, and which also gave me an understanding of the medical industry and whatnot. But it was all for a reason, me getting that knowledge, and it was very interesting because when I worked in pediatric oncology, I found really interesting. I was a unit clerk, and when it was a quiet time, I had the opportunity to go through the charts and take a peek at them and whatnot. And I had noticed with the children that were in there, they all seemed to have come from a broken home or only one parent was there, or the grandparents were taking care of them, or they were foster children or children that had been adopted, that type of thing. And I thought, well, isn't that strange that these children have all gotten sick? And once I learned later in my training and whatnot, it was just kind of came to me just prior to every disease, whether it be cancer, diabetes, whatever, it doesn't matter. There's an emotional event that happens just prior to it, which creates that dis-ease within the body, which then creates the disease. But if you go into that disease and the emotion that happened just prior to the disease being developed, everybody can tell you exactly what happened just prior. That emotion can be released from the body through hypnotherapy. It has to be done at a subconscious level, not consciously. And once that is released, then that healing begins and the disease dissipates and the chemistry in your body goes back into normality. Right. So anyway, I took that training. I was also a mayor of a small town and a town councillor, and I started up a government-supported play school in the area. And so I've done numerous things, raised 3 children, been married to the same man, which will be 50 years in May. And been a very interesting life. Lived in the middle of the jungle in Indonesia and did a lot of traveling. So I was very, very fortunate in the life that I had. Right. So anyway, that's where I'm at. But when I started taking my training back in 2005, it kind of turned my world upside down. I didn't know a lot. I was just going to take the hypnosis training. But as it turned out, I stayed for the full year and got the training in everything that was there regarding hypnosis and hypnotherapy. And I knew nothing about hypnotherapy. So what I'm about to talk about today is past lives and how they affect our present lives and how they help solve mysteries and are very enlightening for people, and why we get into certain relationships or not, or why we have conflicts with people, that sort of thing. So. Okay.
Yeah. So, past lives, it's actually an important topic because, well, there are a lot of people that may not believe in past lives, that we only have this one life, and then after that we're done, and whatever, wherever we go from there, that's where we end up. But there are a lot of people who have had past life experiences who can say without a doubt that they were so-and-so in a past life, or they remember what happened in a past life, that just all these experiences just line up that go beyond coincidence, really. So why don't we talk about, first off, what are past lives?
Well, past lives, of course, come from our past. We have the majority of people, there's some people that won't go into a past life, mainly because of their fear regarding it. So they block that. So if you're not interested in going into a past life, there's nothing I can do for you until you decide that it's okay to go into that past life, because there is something at that subconscious level that is keeping you from doing that. But otherwise, people go into past lives all the time. But in saying that also, I have to tell you that not every past life that you go into is actually yours. It can be an entity attachment. And so a lot of people have said that they are Mother Mary or whatever, but those are entity attachments. And through hypnotherapy, there is a technique which we can find out whether it's your actual past life or if it's just an entity attachment that is attached themselves to you because you read the book or the Bible or there was a documentary on TV or whatever. That's when those entities can come into your subconscious mind and create and make you believe that is who you are, actually.
Yeah.
So I had a couple that actually had gone over to Europe, and they came back here, and the first time I met them, it was really quite unusual because they looked like King Arthur and Guinevere. I mean, they were dressed like them. Their clothing was very flowing. Her hair was long, and she wore beautiful flowing clothes. And he, of course, had the beard and the hair and whatnot. And they really could have passed for Guinevere and King Arthur. But when we did the past lives, it was from their trip, and when they were over there, they went into that subconscious level where those entities attached themselves to them, and they believed that that's who they were. But they were actually only entity attachments, which then really changed their life once they realized that. They kind of went back into normality. So these types of things can happen to people. Now, if it's your actual past life, there will be things in your life that are called, what I call them, are memory buttons. You may purchase something that is connected to your past life. You will meet people that were connected to that past life. There will be things that bother you about certain people that, again, it's from your past life. My husband and I were in a past life together, and I was in a position of authority and control, and he was not, even though he was very well trained in what he did, but I happened to be trained in something else that was more in control as far as the situation was concerned and whatnot. So we were, in this lifetime, we've always been arguing as to who's right and who's wrong and whatnot. And the female-male thing has been a huge issue for me. But of course, prior to me knowing why we were connected in that past life, I had no idea what all this turmoil was certainly about. And also, I became extremely ill at the age of 40, which again, the age of 40 was a memory button. And when I passed in my previous lifetime, I had all those symptoms of passing in that lifetime that came forward in this lifetime and created all of these diseases, or not diseases, but symptoms that I had no clue, and the doctors had no clue. They had sent me to all kinds of specialists, and nobody could figure out what was wrong with me, and all it was I was going through the death of my previous life. With all the symptoms in which I had in that lifetime. So, and once you understand why that person is in your life, in the present life, like my husband, and you understand what the situation was back then and how everybody passed and what their thoughts were just prior to them passing, it all makes sense. And then you can tolerate and understand why you have those conflicts or those interests in common. And what brings you. And when you pass, if there's unfinished business, you come back and finish that business that was not completed in that previous life.
Okay, so that was the question was, so essentially we have these past lives with these people, and then if we are not completing that, whatever that relationship, whatever it is, that learning, the experience, then we come back again into another lifetime, into another situation. We could be a different gender than what we were previously. Different. We could be brother and sister. We can be husband and wife. But we're still going to learn, or we still need to complete whatever learning or understanding or that experience that we need to continue and complete with that person.
Right, from your previous life, definitely. And that's why lots of people, they might have been husband and wife in a previous life, but in this lifetime they're both either two females or two males, and that love that was not completed in that previous lifetime has to be completed in this lifetime, regardless of the gender. So a lot of gender issues, sexual gender issues, are from a previous life that was not completed. That love had not been completed. Okay. Now, my daughter and a boyfriend that she had, they met instantly and had a great relationship and whatnot. And then it came to its fruition. And so I asked her, and she was really upset about it, and so was he. But anyway, I asked her if she wanted to have a session on it and find out why they were together, and she said yes. And what had actually happened was he was her boyfriend back then, and they fell in love, and what ended up happening was she was on a horse, and the horse bucked her off and killed her. And so their love affair had not been completed in that lifetime. So that's why they met in this lifetime and finished it off, and then they both went their own separate ways, and that was that. And she's now married to somebody else, and you know, that's just the way it works.
Yeah.
It's just the way it works. My husband actually died before I did, and his thoughts on his mind were, I'm not here to protect her and take care of her, you know. And he came back in this lifetime. We met in high school. He had finished high school. I was still there. And it was just an instant connection. He actually kissed me the first night, and it wasn't even a date. But anyway, it was a ride to a basketball game, and I was a cheerleader, and he used to play basketball when he was in school and whatnot. So that was the connection, and of course we kissed on the way over there, which was a shock to him and a shock to me, but there was that connection, and I instantly knew that he was the guy I was going to marry, because that was the relationship that he had come back to take care of me, and he's done a terrific job over the 50 years, even though we've had these incidences where we would fight regarding whatever. But once I realized what our relationship was in that past life, I was then able to understand it and not get so upset, and right. Same with him. So life has been running much smoother than what it had previously.
Right. So when we can understand our relationship dynamic with that person, and if we are open to it and do a little digging about, you know, our past lives, maybe do a little past life regression and understand where, you know, at what point in what lifetime and what type of relationship we had with that person, that we could heal that and create a better relationship with them, or move on.
Yeah. Finish it off, and that's that. So it really gives you clarity as far as your relationship is concerned and why you're with that person. And as I said, you know, it can be finished, and there's a reason why it's finished, is because it wasn't meant to be in the first place, but you had not finished that in that previous lifetime. And also our deaths in that lifetime have a huge impact on us in the present life. And with me, I had actually been strangled by a snake that came out of a tree, and I had all the symptoms. I had turned 40 in that lifetime, and in this lifetime, when I turned 40, I had all those symptoms, and it was triggered by a fig tree that I had bought in my kitchen in August. And actually I had died just shortly after. In August I had turned 40 in that lifetime, and I was 39 when I left. And when we found out who I was, I had been 39, but with being strangled I had then turned 40, which was just a couple of months after I had disappeared. But anyway, what ended up happening with the snake strangulation was I had heart palpitations. I couldn't breathe. My husband would have to hit me on my back to get me breathing again. I had horrific nightmares of snakes, and I had always been terrified of snakes. I mean, terrified. I mean, a magazine would go flying if there was a picture of a snake that I happened to come upon. Mm-hmm. I would go screaming out of the living room if there were snakes on the TV, or if I saw one in real life. It was like having an adrenaline rush. It was horrific, absolutely horrific for the snakes for me. But anyway, it was a snake that had come out of a fig tree in that life, came over. I had fallen and I had hurt myself and I couldn't get up, and it came over and actually strangled me. And I mean, I peed my pants, I vomited, all of those symptoms had hit me in this lifetime in August when I purchased that fig tree. And the fig tree was a memory button because that snake had come out of a fig tree.
Right.
And prior to that, I had no clue what a huge fig tree looked like, with all of the trunks that go down into the ground. Like, they're massive. And mm-hmm. my husband and I had gone to Florida, and we saw what an actual fig tree was. And here in Calgary, Canada, I mean, a fig tree was about a stem the size of your finger or two fingers, and with a few leaves on top, and that was it. But yeah, I was really affected, and I never knew when I was going to be vomiting. It would just come to me wherever and whenever. There was no pre-warning, but the fear of snakes was incredible. And when we had gone back into through hypnotherapy, it was done when I was doing my training, and this all happened the second week I was there for training. And I had never thought of past lives, and not being religious, really. I never thought one way or the other, but I was open to it, mm-hmm. Not knowing anything about it, nor knowing anything about hypnotherapy when this session was done on me, and it took me right back to my previous life, which was a shock. And later, I had this fear of snakes. So in class, I said, I've got something we can work on, is my fear of snakes. And of course, it took me back to that lifetime, and that's how I ended up passing. That snake wrapped itself around me. It was a huge snake, and its face was right in my face.
Right.
And that's how I ended up dying. So,
yeah. So that would be something that, in your experience, you had fear of snakes. If somebody had a fear of something, or even just seeming to attract the same situations in their lives, what is it that they need to learn or experience from that? For instance, let's say you keep attracting the same type of person in your life, and maybe would you say that is your own learning of, because maybe in another lifetime you didn't stand up for yourself, or you didn't speak up, or maybe there were situations where you failed to speak up for yourself and then ended up dying, and now in this lifetime you needed to do that so that you could move on. Does that
Yes, it totally makes sense, because what I have found out, I had 3 very significant past lives, but they all involved betrayal. Mm-hmm. And in this lifetime, I've been very passive. I had a very controlling mother. I married a controlling man because he was half my mother and he was half my father. My father was very passive. I was very passive, but my mother was very controlling. So that was my form as a child of love, was a passive man, but also a controlling mother. So I found a man that was both passive and controlling. He was passive aggressive, basically, is what he was. And to me, that was love. But that not only came from this life, it also came from the past life as well.
Right.
Because he wanted to be in control, but knew he couldn't. And I was in control, and I was a woman, which did not settle well at all back in the 30s, 1930s. So that was very difficult. And my other lives too, I never stood up for myself. So it's been very difficult for me to stand up and speak my truth, because I've suffered and lost my life. In all of my life, my 3 very significant past lives, that's how I ended up passing, was because I didn't stand up for myself, and there was betrayal involved in all of those 3 lives.
Right.
Unbeknownst.
So then that was something that in this lifetime that you are needing to learn or needing to understand about yourself so that you can move on from that and really essentially not create that again and heal those situations or those past lives.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I stayed in a child form, the inner child. I had so many issues regarding being an inner child, and I never grew up because I was always taken care of. So my mother and father, fortunately, were middle class, and they took very good control of me, or taking care of me and whatnot. So I didn't really have to stand up for anything because I had what I thought was a normal childhood. Unbeknownst to me, it was not so normal. I had been controlled my entire life, and I didn't have to think for myself, and I didn't have to do for myself because my mother was so controlling. I mean, we lived in an immaculate home. Like, my mother literally vacuumed as she walked out backwards out the door so we could go for a Sunday drive. It was that bad, and all the furniture was covered, and I mean the floors were washed every day, the dusting was done every day. It was unbelievable. All my toys were up in my closet, and whenever I wanted to play with a toy, one would be brought down. I would play with it, and as soon as I was done playing with it, it would go back up in the closet, and unbeknownst to me, my toys would just disappear. So that was my mother's cleanliness, that there's too much clutter in the closet, there's too many toys, let's get rid of some, and that's what happened. They would just automatically disappear. And I was never allowed to get dirty, like play in mud and make mud pies or anything like that, because that was just not allowed. So my normal childhood, I found out later, was not so normal. So, yeah.
Okay, so everybody can have a past life, right?
Yes.
And now how about can we be animals from past lives, or bugs, or?
No, I have never had anything that came through that indicated that whatsoever. Okay. We tend to stay as the same species as a human being, but in saying that, we can be born anywhere, and our skin color can be any color. Our vocabulary can be different. Our hair color can be different. The size of our bodies, our genders can be different. So there's those types of things. But when you realize at a soul level, as a different ethnic background, we're all the same. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah.
It's absolutely huge, in that if you know that you've been somebody else in a previous lifetime, but yet you may be prejudiced of them in this lifetime, not knowing that you were from that ethnic group in a previous lifetime, let me tell you, that brings you some humility, or humbleism in your life. Instantly it does.
Yeah.
It really does. And you can be male or female. I was a male in one of my very significant life, and it was a female in the other 2. So,
okay.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
What about aliens? Could we be an alien? Are we aliens?
I was just going to say, well, we're all aliens.
True.
So, yeah. And I truly believe that. I have had human beings, which I thought were human beings, in sessions that were actual aliens, who allowed me to speak to the higher ups in that species. And so it was very enlightening, but it was kind of a shock too. Like, what do you ask an alien? When this person starts saying, well, that's who I am, and you've clarified that that's actually who they are, and that they're not, it's not an entity, it's actually who they are and what they're doing here and whatnot. So yeah, that's an eye-opener, and I truly believe that we are aliens.
And there's some people, maybe that's for a lot of people, but where they feel like they just feel like totally alien, like an alien on this planet.
Yes.
They just feel like they don't belong here, and not sure why. Right.
And a lot of them will be tested, or so to speak, or be the powers that be, as far as the aliens are concerned, will try to gently waken them up to who they actually are and what they're here to do on this planet. And it's just to observe.
Yeah.
They just want to learn from us. So, how are we doing and what are we doing? And, we're here to help you and protect you and lead you on your way so that you don't destroy this earth and whatnot. And so my encounters have been very friendly and very cooperative, and I feel very privileged to have had that experience.
Yeah.
So it's...
yeah.
And I find that the clients that awareness came to them in the sessions were also very comfortable with it as well. It wasn't a huge shock to them, because they were prepared for what was about to be exposed to them, so to speak.
So I would say then those people that just do not feel like themselves, I guess, there are some things here that you kind of have to look at, I guess. Well, A, entity attachment. B, maybe you are truly, like you said, that we're really all aliens, but maybe on some level our past lives as aliens kind of, we just don't feel comfortable in our own skin.
Yeah.
So we have to kind of look at a deeper reason why we're feeling this way about ourselves, why these things are happening. And once we understand that, or we can do past life regression, and we can kind of look at that, then we can kind of settle more into our bodies, and that we have a deeper purpose for being here.
Right. And I've got to say too that children, as children, we're still very connected with the past. And heaven, or whatever you want to call it regarding your religion or whatever, it really doesn't matter. But before we arrive back here, and after we arrive here, we still have a memory of that until it's been taken from us, or it's forgotten, or whatever the case may be. Or let's say parents don't believe in it and whatnot, and say, oh, that's silly, that that type of thing. So in saying that, a lot of people keep that memory and just want to go back to where they were because it was so pleasant and a wonderful experience, or that past life was a wonderful experience, and they want to go back to it. So because they have those strong memories regarding it. But a lot of objects will be memory buttons for us as well. Like the fig tree was the memory button for me regarding being strangled by the snake. But I've had other things as well, like an Eiffel Tower. The Eiffel Tower. I had a connection with the Eiffel Tower. Airplanes, all of these types of things were memory buttons for me that I had a huge interest in, as well as my husband. I mean, he had to have an airplane, and he was going to be a pilot regardless. And so, of course, that's where our connection was in the immediate past life, was that. Right. That I was in control and he was not. So regarding the airplane. So in this lifetime, he was going to fix that boy. He was going to become the pilot, and I of course didn't have control over that.
Right.
So, which is what he needed to finish off that past life, and whether or not he believed that perhaps the decision that was made was my fault or his fault, and he felt guilty about it. But whatever the case may be, I don't know. But he always has to be right in this in this lifetime
Right.
as well.
Okay.
So, which I think is part connected.
Yeah.
Another thing is I had a fear of swinging bridges, and when I went back into that, I was with a client, and he saw us walk across a swinging bridge that was made out of, I don't know, vines and whatever. But anyway, one of the planks let go and I was on it, and I started falling through the swinging bridge. And my husband today, back in that lifetime, he grabbed me and pulled me up. But all the natives were around watching what had happened. But that's where my fear of swinging bridges came. And after that session, I had the knowledge of that, and I was able to walk across a swinging bridge without feeling I was going to fall through, because I had a horrific fear of falling through the swinging bridge.
Yeah.
Any swinging bridge, or walking up to a cliff or anything. That fear was with me. And
So once you understand what the situation was, then you can heal that.
yeah, and car sickness. My car sickness came from not being in control.
Huh.
So whenever I got into a vehicle, I felt I wasn't in control, and I would get sick to my stomach.
Yeah.
And that again was from the previous. Because I was not in control. We were forced out of the air. So
Yeah. So another thing is, now I've seen a couple of things just online. One in particular of, people who remember their past lives and solve their own murder mystery sort of thing.
yes,
If you're that connected, or if you can
Yes.
go into that, you can
Yes.
solve your own, if you were murdered in a past life.
yeah. Which I actually, there was a fellow, his parents I had met, and his mother was very into what I did, and the son had been murdered, and of course I did a session for her in the parking lot, and because I just kind of met her, and we started talking about this. Actually, we had gone to a Sylvia Brown
Seminar. Or
seminar,
workshop.
something like that. But anyway, what we ended up finding out was that he was murdered, and the evidence was put in a burn barrel, and of course it had been burned, but that's where it was. And also I had another client who was, the police felt that it was a suicide, but when I had done the session with his wife, it was the girlfriend that had murdered him and put the gun in his right hand, and he was actually left-handed.
Huh.
So that's how we knew that he had been murdered, but yet the police felt it was suicide, and of course she hadn't seen what hand that was holding the gun, but in her session she saw it and knew what it was. And my past life, it's a mystery, and it's still a mystery, but I have since, through hypnotherapy, solved the mystery, and look forward to sharing that with the masses at a later date.
Yeah.
Because it's very mind-blowing, but it's something that humanity needs to know and to understand this, and how helpful it is as far as solving mysteries and cold cases, that sort of thing is, and to determine whether it's that person's actual past life or if it's an entity talking to you, because a lot of these, it can be an entity and not the person's actual life, whether they've passed on or in the present. And I speak to both living and people that have passed on as well, and ghosts and all that kind of thing.
So really, I think part of this that I just want to touch on too is the capabilities that we have as human beings, that we've kind of been dumbed down, and we can tap into this if we just know how, or we have the tools or the guidance to tap into that.
We're all psychic. We're all born psychic, but some of us have found a way of developing more. I went to courses. I was psychic prior, but had no clue that I was psychic, because my mother hid it from me, because she was psychic as a young girl and was criticized for it, and she didn't want me to have to go through that. But yet it kept on peeking its nose out, and of course I really didn't know about anything psychic or that I was psychic. It was just these funny things were happening to me. I've lost my train of thought here. So anyway, we're all born being psychic, and some of us have developed it and some of us have not, but we're all capable of it. And that's what needs to be taught from the moment we are born, is those psychic abilities, and to trust them and develop them so that we're capable. If we all spoke at a subconscious level to one another, this world would not be what this world is today, because the governments and the religious sector and whatnot have found a way of controlling us and not allowing us to develop our psychic abilities, but yet they've used those psychic abilities and hypnotic techniques in order to control the powers that be.
Yes.
It's so important for us to get this knowledge and to be able to speak at a subconscious level to one another. And by speaking subconsciously, the truths are there. Mm-hmm. And it's not saying, it's like saying, well, that apple is green, because you can see that it's green, and it rather than saying maybe something like that, well, that apple was actually red. And you're not speaking the truth, and you want somebody to believe something that is not true. And that's done at a conscious level, and that's done with our governments. Mm-hmm. I mean, they don't speak at that subconscious level. They speak in riddles and not truths and whatnot, hoping that they will have the power over somebody else, over something or other. And they can take, I mean, it just floors me how they can take these young kids and hand them a rifle and convince them that it's all right to go over somewhere and shoot another young kid that hasn't got a hot clue what this war is about, or what the political situation is, or why it's there, all over a piece of land that has an invisible line in the sand that says, this is mine, this is yours, or I believe in this religion or that religion. And it's the same thing. Religion is man-made.
Yeah.
And it's a money grab.
Totally.
That's what it is. It's a money grab. And all they want to do is control the masses. I mean, that's what happened to Jesus. Mm-hmm. He became powerful, and the people were starting to listen to him, and powers that be just did not want that. No. So they did whatever they could to deter that, and they created his life, his passing. So, it's pretty pathetic what we have done to one another, and by not standing up for ourselves and not thinking for ourselves, and being afraid, because that's what they want us to be. They want us to be afraid, because then they have the control and the power over us. Yeah. Period. Yeah. That easy, that simple.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And this has been going on for a very long time.
Absolutely.
But people, we all are waking up. Like, more and more truth is coming to light. Just even knowledge of past life regression, that it's possible that we have had these past lives, that we can heal from these things, that we have these capabilities. Just all that information is coming to the surface even more and more. So I think that we're just on that path, that road of rediscovering ourselves and healing and coming into our own power.
Absolutely. What happens too is that we travel in pods or in groups. I've had numerous past lives with my husband, as Tamara and I have had as well. And our children, I mean, we've all repeated, but maybe my daughter was my mother in a past life, or vice versa, or whatever the case may be. So we come back because we're willing to try something different and do something different, but it is all for our learning and our growing of our souls. It's our souls that have to have that knowledge and that learning, and it makes it so much easier if we have kind of a roadmap as to where we came from, so we know where we're going, rather than kind of branching out and trying all these other different things that is not us, you know, in order to get us back on our path and do what it is that we're here to do in this lifetime. And I apparently have been blessed with a lot of work to do in this lifetime, which I still find very hard to swallow, but I know that it is what it is. Yeah. So, and this is part of my journey, is getting these messages out and speaking to the to the human race, and hopefully helping change what it is. Like, we don't have to be sick. We can heal our diseases. Yes. We have that power. I've brought people out of comas. I've brought a gentleman that had a degenerative spine. His spine regenerated. Another fellow that had COPD. 2 days later, he'd been to his pulmonary doctor, and he, unbeknownst to me, he had an X-ray the day after his session. And when he went to go see his doctor said, "I can't believe this. Your lungs are totally cleared up." So the gentleman, I really appreciate it, because he did call me the day right after he had saw his doctor and said, you know, "This is a miracle. My lungs are totally clear." And he says, "I know it's because of the session that I had with you." So I thanked him, and it was. You know, this is the power of hypnotherapy. It's huge, and we don't have to be sick. And all we have to do is go back and release those emotions that get stuck in our bodies and our subconscious mind, and let them go. It's that easy and that simple. Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been kind of taught, or we believe that we need to hang on to these things, right? Yeah. But we don't have to.
No, and that's something else too. Is a lot of people like their diseases a lot, because they get something out of it. Yes. You know, they have somebody that takes care of them, somebody that maybe wasn't loving them, and they feel like, when I'm sick, well, that person is great. I mean, that person takes care of me and brings me things, and sees to it that I have everything. You know, I get pushed around in a wheelchair. You know, whatever the case may be, they get the attention that they're looking for. So who would want to give that up? Yeah. Yeah. You know, absolutely. Really. So, and I had quite an experience, and that was, I didn't want to go somewhere, and I created a way that was
it made it difficult for
you. It made it very difficult for me to go to where I didn't want to go, but it's what I asked for. Yes, it was. I know I created that. Yeah. And boy, did I suffer for it, you know. But I know better now. But it was something that I created, because it was something that I didn't want to do. And how am I going to get out of it? Yeah. I put that out to the universe, and boy, did it answer me quickly.
And so that kind of gave you awareness about how to, well, A, ask for what you really want, and B, to stand up for yourself. Absolutely. Stand your ground.
Yeah, and that was the thing. I didn't want to say what it was that I really wanted. Yeah. Because I was afraid of hurting that person's feelings, or looking at the consequences if I didn't do what they wanted. And so I now stand up for what I want and say what I want, what I really want, not what I don't want. Remember, that's the thing is, you know, you say something to somebody that you think that they will, you know, believe, but it's really not the truth that I really want to say. Yeah. So, you know, speak from your soul, speak from that subconscious level. It's so important. You know, trust me. I've been there, done all of this. I'm a slow learner, obviously, but I am learning.
Yeah, definitely.
It's huge.
Yeah, to speak our truth and be authentic, and it's important for ourselves to be able to do that, and because otherwise you're just really robbing yourself of
your life.
Yeah, and you're not respecting yourself then.
No, not at all. And we're not here to help somebody else's life, so to speak. I mean, you do help when you can. But by not being honest about what it is that you want to do, and not standing up for yourself, and actually doing what you want to do, you're destroying your future.
Yeah.
You really are.
Yeah.
Because you're not on your path. You're not doing what you're here to do. And at that soul level, you know exactly what you're here to do, and you better get on the track quickly. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
That was some self-talk for myself as well.
Yeah, that's something that we all need for sure. Okay, so that all being said, are there anything that you want to add to this or conclude?
Do not be afraid of past lives. It's an eye-opener. It will help you believe in what you already believe, or it may help you get some clarity and some truths as far as your disbelief maybe in past lives. It's nothing to fear. You have gone through all of these, you've gone through your deaths anyway, so I mean, it's nothing that you have not been able to survive, or the pain you may feel for a second, but in a past life regression, we don't let you feel it for anything more than a second. And that pain of that snake wrapping itself around me, I was immediately pulled up and to look down upon it as if I was watching it on TV, so that you don't feel the pain or whatnot. You feel it for a slight second, but then that's in order to release it, because you have to feel that emotion. And but it's very safe. Nobody has died under hypnotherapy or hypnosis. Just make sure that you go to somebody that has had the proper training, and definitely that has the paranormal, because the paranormal is so important. When you go into a past life, you have to know it's your past life and not an entity attachment. And they will be able to help you with that and let you know if this is just an entity attachment or if it's your actual past life. So trust that and make sure they've got the proper training regarding that, because it's crucial, because so many people walk around thinking there's somebody and they're not. They're actually, and they will take on that person's voice. It's like channeling. When you channel somebody, that person that you have channeled, their personality will come through you or me, because I do that quite often. Sometimes I need to channel because my client won't accept somebody that's passed on, so I allow them to come through me. But you will take on their voice, their actions, their emotions. It's like they totally take over your body. And if you don't know what you're doing, this happens to a lot of people, and this is called schizophrenia, multiple personalities.
Right.
And all of that is so easy and simple to let go of, rather than taking a whole handful of medications and whatnot and being in the hospital. And it's so easy to correct, because all we do is ask why they're there and allow them to leave, and show them where the light is. Listen to one of my podcasts regarding entity attachments and ghosts, and because it's crucial that you have that knowledge regarding these entities that attach themselves to you, or these ghosts, because all they are humans like you and me, and they just want to get a message through to somebody. And if that message is not passed on, they stay on that ghostly plane and can't pass through the light. And to me, that is being stuck in hell. That to me is hell. Because they're trying to talk to somebody, and that's where psychics come into effect, is because we hear them. We can communicate with them, and as my clients, I allow my clients to hear them speak as well, so they can speak directly to their loved ones or people that have passed on, and get the knowledge that they need to have. Well, what happened? Why? What happened at the accident? Or who shot you? Or what do you know about that? Or where's the key to the safety deposit box? Or those types of things.
Right.
I mean, it's so healing to speak to somebody that has passed on, that you loved and weren't able to say goodbye because your flight was 10 minutes late, or the taxi cab or the bus or the car or the lights or whatever didn't allow you to get there on time. And that's what they were waiting for.
Yeah.
was to communicate with you, or you were to communicate with them and you weren't able to. So that's another thing that hypnotherapists have the ability of doing. And rather than me hearing what they need to say to you and being the middleman, I prefer my clients to be able to speak directly to their loved ones. Mm-hmm. And you feel them, and you can hug them, you can kiss them, you can, wrap your arms around them and feel the warmth and the love, and communicate with them at that soul level. It's so healing.
Yeah.
And it really is. It's amazing. So,
amazing.
Yeah, it is. And as I said before, we travel in these pods and together and whatnot from lifetime to lifetime, finishing and trying to do what it is and complete what it is that we're here to learn in these lifetimes. So.
Okay, amazing.
Thank you, Tamara.
Yeah, so is there a place you want to share your information where people can find you?
Yeah, just on my website, it's www.brendasharp.com. Right now my website is
under construction.
Yeah, and hopefully it'll be up soon. But also I've got some podcasts out there with Tamara, as well as a few videos, as well as grief and a few other things. So it's on YouTube, as well as I think it's on Instagram.
Yeah.
So feel free to search me out.
Yeah. And but other than that, thanks again, Brenda, for stopping in. And
it's been lovely. I just love doing this, Tamara. You're just awesome. I love your friendship and whatnot.
Same.
Really good interviewer. So thank you for allowing me this time.
Yeah, it's always a treat, and it's and I mean we're friends as it is, but the conversation is always very much like just sitting down and
just chatting.
Yeah,
so. And I love talking about all of this. So, I mean, if you need to contact me, my email is sharp, SHARP, .brenda@gmail.com. Feel free to contact me, and I'll get back to you, and we can just go for a coffee or just chat over the phone or whatever the case may be. I'm totally into communicating all of this to the world. So.
Okay, awesome. All right, thank you, Brenda. Thank you, everyone, for stopping in and listening. Very much appreciated. And there will be more podcasts coming up, more with Brenda. It's 2023, so a whole new world, a whole new way of seeing things, and I'm pretty excited.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I am too, Tamara. I think there's great things about to happen to this earth, and it's time. It's time we moved on and got rid of the fears and really looked at things at a soul level and communicated that way as well.
Yeah,
thank you for this opportunity. It's been great. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Okay, thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.